Hello and welcome back to Seconds Out. My name is Eamon Khan here with journalist for the Daily Star Sport, Chris McKenna. Chris, lovely to see you, as I was saying off camera. Good to have you as well on Zoom on an interview. How's life?
Not too bad. Been away for a couple of weeks, but back at it this week. So getting my head back in the football and boxing game. So yeah, catching up on everything that's been going on.
Well, yeah, in terms of catching up, you had a big fight to catch up to, and that was Ryan Garcia getting a stunning victory over Devin Haney. Much unfancied victory considering the way that Garcia was behaving in the build up to it. Before we get to that, firstly, your feeling coming out of that fight as to what you saw in the ring.
Yeah, what we saw in the ring has shocked me really. Even which I knew going into the fight, he had the weight advantage and stuff like that, but I still thought Devin Haney would probably be too good for him. I didn't see Devin Haney fighting the fight he fought. I thought he stood around too long, gave Garcia a lot of opportunities, and even when in those kind of middle rounds, when before the knockdowns really started coming, you thought, well, yeah, Haney's doing well enough here, but he's still giving him chances, and I didn't expect that. I expected quite a boring fight, to be honest. I thought it would start like it kind of did, where Garcia might have some early success, but then Haney would get into his groove, find his rhythm, and kind of not bore his way to victory, but box clever and stay away, stay out of trouble. And because the thing with Garcia, what you knew was with his behavior, whether it was acting, whether it was really something going on, um, you knew he could be erratic in there, and there was chances he was going to go and do the unpredictable stuff. And even earlier in his career, he's been like that. So I was surprised that Haney kind of didn't stay away a bit more, and I think he gave him chances. And I suppose we've seen that what we did see was Haney has got a lot of bottle. Question marks over his chin now, but he kept getting up to his credit. And you've got to give him huge credit for that, because he took some big shots and he was out of it for a long time in that fight, and he kept battling on and on, and he got to hear the final bell, and a knockdown less, and he might have got a decision, and that's how close the kind of fight was. So shocked me the result, the outcome, but more shocked me was Haney's performance.
Now, getting into some of the pre-fight antics and behavior, I want to first focus on Devin Haney and Bill Haney, who we're not alien to these sort of things coming out from boxers, and it's used a lot for, in the words of, fight promotion to build a fight. But there was in this fight talk about killing the opponent and sending Devin Haney to, end Ryan Garcia's life. You felt, and you took to social media to say that you felt that there should be some ramifications or repercussions for these consequences. That was these actions. Sorry, that was met by other people who debated the other side of it. But just
Yeah.
talk to me about what you feel about those sort of things being said in the lead up to a high profile fight.
Well, yeah, I made the point more about Garcia because
Okay.
he had said it as well, and he arrived with that jacket which said RIP and on all of this stuff on it. And I know Haney said it, and when I put that tweet out, a lot of people replied, yeah, but Devin Haney said it as well. And that's a bit of whataboutery. But the point I made it was on Garcia was because everybody, and rightly in a way, I've been heaping praise on him for his win. But we shouldn't forget that the two things he did was he came in overweight. Whether he did it really intentionally or not, it was clear he was never going to make the weight. So you should be, as a fighter, telling your opponent in advance that I can't make this weight anymore. We need to renegotiate here, and I'll pay you and whatever, but I'm not making it, and that should be the way it should be done. But he waits till the weigh in and he's overweight and he pays the fine. That's another debate. But the comments and front they were from both now. So, but I made the point in the tweet about Garcia just because I think everybody's saying, "Oh, great, wow, Garcia's this, and this," and he is. But we can't just ignore this. And it's something that bothers me, and it bothers me when Deontay Wilder says it, and it's bothered me when British fighters have said it. And when British fighters say it, they get reprimanded for it by the British Boxing Board of Control, and rightly so. This is the most dangerous sport. Okay, MMA is dangerous and all of that as well. It's the only sport, as well as MMA, sorry, where you can legally kill somebody. Um, and you're not, if you kill somebody in a boxing ring, as long as you haven't cheated, by putting something in your gloves or anything like that. You don't get charged with manslaughter. In any other sport, if you go and beat somebody up on a football pitch and they die, and you can be done for manslaughter. So this is such a dangerous sport. And the reaction on Twitter was, oh, basically stop being a pussy and stop being a bitch about it. And I don't mind people having their opinion. They're entitled to their opinion. Oh, it's a fight sport. Just get on with it. Well, no, because every time something bad happens in boxing, whether that's sad loss of somebody like Scott Westgate or Moitel, we get hammered. And I say we because I do feel part of the sport. I am a journalist and I'm not a promoter or I'm not involved in the sport. I am a journalist, but I've been involved in the sport since I've been a young age. And I've been hearing stories and people wanting to ban the sport. And I know how good this sport can do at an amateur level. I've seen it from my dad's boxing club back home in Ireland. The amount of kids he and now my brother does with his coaching, they keep off the streets. And if we lose this sport, all of that goes away. And people on Twitter, or maybe it's a different attitude because a lot of the responses were coming from America, so maybe they don't get the abolitionists, the abolishments, or however we call them, the abolishers, the people that want this sport banned. Maybe they don't have that in America. They let mad things go on over there, like power slap and stuff like that. So maybe there is a totally different reaction, and maybe we are a bit softer in our approach. But I know when Scott Westgate dies, and God rest him, that people come out and go, "How is this sport allowed?" And I know when there's concussions and a colleague, another journalist, and who's a friend of mine, Matt Dickinson, wrote a column a few years ago where he said he'll never watch boxing again. From the Times, he can't make peace with it that we allow this sport to happen when other sports like football and rugby have got concussion problems, and we are openly chanting people on to give each other concussion. I do get his argument, but my argument is always there's so much good to this sport that these risks are worth it. But when you have fighters, and I know I'm gone off on a tangent there, who before a fight say, I'm going to kill him, whether he means it or not doesn't make a difference. The fact you're putting those words out there makes this sport look more barbaric and more wild. It's wild enough as it is. It's when you strip it back, it's two men or women beating each other up, the pro game anyway. And that is, and I've said it before, in 50 years' time, I wouldn't be surprised if there is no boxing and people are looking back and going, you actually let people do that? Like, because the attitudes to everything is changing. And people, again, I made that point when Matt Dickinson's column came out. People were like, oh, I'm being soft. Why won't boxing exist? I'm just saying that things change. We're now talking about kids not being allowed to head footballs until they're a certain age. We're now talking about how rugby does scrums different. Sports change. And boxing is a very barbaric, professional boxing anyway. Amateur's different. It's more of a skill. So my argument is let's like hold back on the kill talk because it sets a bad tone. But it also what I also don't want to happen is a fighter to say it and then whether they mean it or not, and then it to actually happen because they'll never be able to live with themselves. It's hard enough for boxers that have been in a fight and their opponent has either died or suffered life-changing injuries. If you talk to any boxer who's in the opposite corner, when that has happened, it haunts them. And it's some of them can't get over it. Some of them do, and some have fought on and gone on and been successful and been able to park it, but some have really struggled with it. But imagine if you'd said, and their family had seen these words, I'm going to kill you. And then, God forbid, that actually happens. And it can happen in any fight. Any fight, an accident can happen. All it takes is one punch. And when that happens, it's going to be even harder to defend the sport because we defend it by saying, look at the good it does on a social economic level, but also we have all these safety measures in place to make sure that if something bad happens, we do our best to make sure we get them to the hospitals quick, whatever. But it's going to be impossible to defend if you have then clips of the other guy before the fight saying, I'm going to kill you, or his coach or dad saying, we're going out here to kill him. And then he goes and does. Thankfully, that hasn't happened yet. But the more times you do it, the more chance it's going to happen. And I know that was quite a long answer.
No, I appreciate your thoughts there, Chris. And I wanted to add to that argument as well because there's an uncomfortable part of the promotion that at least, well, I stood uncomfortable having to listen to Ryan Garcia. Now, we weren't aware or certain as to where his mind was going into the fight, and he's now made the comments that he was, feigning or, creating this persona in a way to, put off or whatever it was he was looking to achieve. But the point is, he was characterizing himself in a way as to off-put his opponent, promote the fight as well too. I wonder if that sits easy with you to characterize your mental health in such a way as to promote a product in this day and age where he's a real influencer as well too, and has real influence over people who follow him, with young followers as well too, who might then see that as an appropriate way in the future to act and behave.
No, good point. Because as you say, some of the stuff he said was wild, and some of his actions were wild, and you don't accept it or forgive it, but you actually have. Well, I had concern about when I wrote a column at the start of the promotion saying it's quite sad that him and Oscar don't really get on anymore. I know they because Oscar's been through a lot where he's struggled, and if you've read any books on Oscar or watched the HBO documentary, which is brilliant on him, you've seen the struggles he went through that during his career a lot of people didn't know about. And when we were looking at it from afar with Garcia, we were thinking, is he going through something similar here? And it was like Oscar could help him, and so I wrote a column about that. But then it started to become a bit bizarre and a bit odd, and then now for him just to say it was all fake, I'm not sure. It's hard to believe what if it was or not. But as you say, if it was all fake, it's a bad example to set. That the things he says, the people he backs, and the attitudes, it sets a wrong impression for somebody who has a big influence.
Going back into the strict fight talk, Devin Haney's put out a statement on his social media, and he said that he wants a rematch with Ryan Garcia, but what he wants is a fair fight with an agreed weight to be adhered to going into the fight. Do you feel that's the right course of action for Haney to seek the rematch under those terms?
Yeah, and it has to be at the right way. And I think we need to stop this with boxing where, again, I don't know if Garcia intentionally didn't make the weight. I don't know whether he tried to get down and then a few days out kind of realized he wasn't gonna, or did he wake up on the morning and did he do his rehydration wrong and he was just overweight? But if he intentionally didn't make it, or he knew a week out that he wasn't going to make it, you need to be kind of upfront about it. And now, what happened with check weights and stuff like that that should be happening, I don't know. I said I was away; I wasn't following it all. So was he clearing check weights? He must have been. Um, so if it's going to be a rematch, and I want to see the rematch certainly. And fair play to Haney for wanting to take it straight away after such a heavy kind of a heavy defeat, because it was kind of close on the cards, but a kind of a heavy the punishment he took in the fight. So fair play to him. But he's right; it needs to be at a agreed weight, and whether that's heavy or not, at least then Haney will have that advantage as well, or the chance to bulk himself up a bit more if it's going to be at a catch weight. But yeah, if you're coming in overweight, I don't think you should get as much credit as you do for the win then, and especially when you're arrogant about it and saying I didn't want to make the weight. I'm here for the win. Well, the weight is there for a reason. Um, if we could all just go in and say, right, weigh whatever you want, then there'd be no point in doing weight division. So there's a weight there for a reason. It was supposed to be a world title fight. So you have to make it. And if you're not going to bother to make it, you need to make your opponent aware so they then have the chance. But the other flip side of it is, and I think it maybe came down to a bit of arrogance, Devin Haney could have pulled out. He
Hmm.
could have said, "Nah, I ain't fighting him. He's 3.5 pounds over. That's not right." I get the pressures though. He's got a big payday that he would miss out on, etc. Um, so I do get the pressures, but maybe it was a bit of arrogance from them to think, well, we're so confident we're going to win this, the weight thing won't be an issue. But I think there has to be a bigger punishment there. And I don't think fights should happen when there's that much kind of weight disparity on the scales.
Last topic to discuss as I let you get on with the rest of your day, Chris. The recent Riyadh season announcement of the card now merging over into different territories. We're expecting one over in the UK, possibly in September, possibly Wembley. There's one being announced now for America. Crawford versus Majmov is the headline title amongst what is being considered as a good undercard as well. What are the thoughts about the Saudis coming in and looking to, it seems, control a lot of boxing now going forward?
Yeah, this is the huge power play. Frank Warren's kept saying that it's game changing and it's going to be bigger and better. And when they're already doing huge events in Saudi, you're thinking, well, how can it be bigger? And the fact they're going now into other territories and it's not just going to be in Saudi, I suppose is a positive for boxing because you're getting these big events close to home for some of the fans that maybe don't want to travel to the Middle East or can't travel to the Middle East because it's so far. So they're going to have them at home. But it's certainly a sign of things to come. I think they're going to keep pumping money into the sport. They're going to keep trying to put on these big cards, and we'll wait and see to how long it all lasts. But the ambition from them certainly doesn't seem to be subsiding in any way. And this going into new territories, obviously, it's going to be part of their advertisement for Riyadh season and the events. I'm sure will be promoting certain things and to come over and see this and that. But for fans, they're winning in the sense that these events are absolutely huge, and there's going to be, I mean, the names and that you're hearing that it's going to be involved in Wembley and whatnot, and it's just going to be, it could be huge as well. So I suppose it's good for fans that these are happening now in closer to home, but it's certainly a sign of the power that Saudi now has over the whole sport.
Is it renewed hope possibly that maybe one of the Fury Usyk fights happens over here in the UK, or a Fury Joshua fight might happen over here in the UK?
I think so. I don't think the Fury Usyk rematch will. If we need the rematch, if the loser of that fight takes it, which is no guarantee. Depends how that goes. If it's very one-sided, you mightn't see that rematch. But if it does happen, I think because it's the talk is September for Wembley, so I think that'll be a bit early. So I think you might be looking at that, but it's giving hope to Fury Joshua is in the UK, and I think that would be great. I think that's where it should happen. I just think the British fight fans deserve it over here. I think because they've backed these two fighters. Very different sets of fans. It's one side or the other, but they both backed them all the way in their careers. So it'd be great if Fury Joshua does happen. I mean, if Usyk wins, it's might be even a topic of conversation. And Joshua will have a fight, I imagine, before then as well. Against we don't know yet. So they've got to keep winning. But yeah, I would love to see if that fight could happen in the UK. But I suppose the main thing that people will say is if Fury beats Usyk once or twice, Joshua remains undefeated. The most important thing is that it happens.
Very, very last one. Speaking of backing, we've got the Matchroom in Queensbury Matchroom 5v5. Who are you backing?
I'm a journalist, impartial, not picking sides. I do a column with Frank Warren every week, but I can't even pick sides. I'm sure he won't be too annoyed on that. But I'm looking forward to it. Some interesting matchups. Should be an interesting card, and what a great main event as well with Bivol Bataeviev topping it. But so yeah, some of them I can't pick really. And I generally try not to pick when British fighters are involved because you only upset somebody if you pick against them. But I'm looking forward to it happening. It's taken too long. These things should have happened years ago. And hopefully maybe the rematch of it will be in the UK as well, and we can get to see it over here too.
Chris, pleasure. I knew it'd be a good chat with you. Thank you for speaking to Seconds Out. So looking forward already to the next one.